Glasgow Marathon might still be on. Got an email about that yesterday, so we'll see. But yeah, I did 3.5 hours on the bike yesterday.
Yeah. You might be swimming tomorrow because it's going to be a good downpour tomorrow.
Yeah. Actually, I should have swum outdoors on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said I should have done.
Yeah.
All booked on to go and everything. It got cancelled because of the weather, high winds. So I haven't swum for 10 weeks. You know how good the weather's been for the last, I don't know how many weeks.
Yeah.
First chance you get, it's the worst day of the month. So, didn't get a lot done on Saturday.
No.
Oh, give up, John. That shouldn't be allowed.
What's that?
John, look at John.
Oh, that's disgraceful. He should be ashamed of himself.
I am.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so nimble.
Can you send one round?
Oh, yeah.
We should explain to Will, John's wife makes us cakes once a month for our meetings.
Oh,
so
nice.
He's eating them now. It's to everybody else.
So I've got to eat the cakes now, we can't meet.
He's married to Mrs. Kipling.
As long as I'm not married to Rudyard Kipling, it's all right.
So we're nearly all on. Just maybe one or two more. So
Wish I'd got a biscuit.
It keeps coming out now.
there you are, Chris.
Can you send me one of those?
I'm not interested.
Will, do you think the social distancing will work in football?
I've been having a conversation
With your
my
defence,
partners
Will.
today. Yes.
Peace be unto you, Ian.
You've been
Yes,
practicing
sorry.
it for seasons at Sheffield Wednesday.
What was something new? Let's have something new.
Who's that we can hear in the background? Wee fella, there he... Hello!
Hello.
Hello!
Are you shy?
Hello.
Willow.
Bye-bye.
Anyway, I think Will were trying to answer my question until he interfered.
Well, I think I've been discussing it with my partner about it all, and obviously we're just trying to work out when I'm going to be back playing and whatever. But I think obviously in like League One, League Two, and some of the National Leagues teams, they're going to have facilities where, like I know, I was speaking at Chesterfield. I mean, even if you're allowed, say, 1,000 people in, and it can be in small groups, say of 150 or 200 or whatever they eventually bring out, you'll be able to scatter them around the ground, like in different turnstiles and all this sort of things. And we even discussed about, well, why don't they? Because my partner had to go to the dentist the other day, and they checked her temperature before she had to go in. So even things like that, why don't they have someone on the turnstile checking the temperature before they come in, even if they have to wear face masks during the game, like, or separate the seats, every other seat and stuff, and miss a row. There's ways around it, but I just think, I don't know, obviously I'm speaking for the National League, I don't know too much about what's happening with the Football League and stuff, but the National League government body people, I don't think they really understand the full effect of what's going on. It doesn't seem like it anyway, because we were the only teams to play on the last weekend before lockdown, where every other club had said we're not playing, and the National League refused and said we're playing. So, and there was people in other teams testing positive for the virus and stuff, and they carried on playing. It's just bizarre to me, but it is what it is. And I sort of feel sorry for the Premier League players, because like they're they're being forced to play because of finance, and it's a big ask. Like, you see, I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and my wife's pregnant, and I mean, she's in a vulnerable category, and so like if I was, say, playing for Sheffield United and they're ringing me saying you've got to come in, but I'm putting my family at danger by coming in. It's a horrible situation, because all you want to do is, obviously, as you know, they want to play football and they want to get the season finished. That's all you want to do. But you've got to take the bigger picture into it, because I mean, people do have families, people do have people at home they've got to look after and whatever. Do you know what I mean? I know obviously it's sad because it is purely money, and it's financially, like, that's the reason for it, because there's no reason why. Do you know what I mean? Like, they can't sort the league out in a different way, because but obviously people are refusing to pay out on bonuses and sponsorship deals and all this sort of stuff, which is obviously I can understand, but it's a global thing. It's not just a thing that's happening in the Premier League. It's not just happening in the UK. It's a global thing, isn't it? So I think people are getting caught up in just focusing on what's happening with them rather than the whole picture.
Yeah. Will, we've already mentioned one memorable game of yours, the 3-3 draw. What other memorable games have you taken part in?
Well, obviously the first one, my debut game was we played. It was for Swindon, so it was my first year as a professional. So I would have been 18 at the time. Yeah, I think I was 18, and I was on the bench and stuff, but obviously it was my first game, so we were losing. I think we lost the last 4 or 5 games, and we'd gone like a bit of a tough period, and we were Southampton away, and 5-6 minutes in, the captain of the team, holding midfielder again, he got injured, pulled a hamstring, and the manager, I was down warming up, and just because it was, do you know what I mean, I was away at Southampton, I just wanted to sort of soak in the atmosphere. So I was with Billy Bowden, who like I mentioned before. We were down warming up, and he shouted, Will, and I didn't know if it was Bill or Will. So we stood there for like 20 seconds just looking like, which one? And we were like pointing us, him, and so we got a bit confused, and then pulled me over and he said, yeah, Will. So I've gone over, rushing over, and then he's like, you're going on, you're playing centre midfield. I was like, all right, okay. And yeah, we ended up winning 3-0. And to be fair, I think I got man of the match as well. So it was a quite surreal situation to be chucked into. But that was when Southampton I think they won the League One at that time, and they were like obviously a massive club in League One, and then they went on to back-to-back promotions. I think they got, didn't they, to the Premier League. So that was the season when they were like throwing a lot of money around and stuff, and they had a lot of big names. Well, like I think Oxlade-Chamberlain played that game. Is it Schneidlin? He went to Man United, didn't he go?
Yeah.
There was a few. Lee Barnard, I don't know if you remember him, striker.
Yeah.
He actually got sent off because he came on, and obviously I was, like I said, I got man of the match, so I was playing quite well, and I think he saw, well, what's this 18-year-old lad sort of running the show really? So he came over, and I got the ball, and he tried to kick me. He like really badly tried to like tackle me from behind, and he got sent off for it. So I think he was a bit annoyed that he was an experienced pro and he was getting a run around by an 18-year-old. So, but yeah, Punchin, he was at Crystal Palace. Jason Punchin, he played.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of good players. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had a very good squad at that time, and yeah, we beat them 3-0. So it was quite a crazy game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm trying to think.
And the
You
game
say
you
you
win.
got promoted.
I got promoted in. So my first one would have been with Newport. I went there in the January on loan from Hereford, and then we went to the playoffs. I didn't play in the thing. I picked up a little injury just before the playoffs, so I didn't manage to play in the playoffs. And then they got to Wembley, so that's one thing I've never done. I've got to the playoffs, I think, 5 times in my career, and that one time, the first time I've got to the final, I wasn't able to play, but the other times I've lost in the playoffs. So I've never actually been able to play at Wembley, but that's one thing I'm going to try and aim to do at some point in my career. I think that's the ultimate, especially for a lower league player, to play at Wembley. But yeah, so there's been a few good games where we were in the National League and we played Bolton Wanderers this was when I was at Eastleigh in the FA Cup 3rd round. So we were 1-0 up, and they scored, I think, 89th minute or something to make it 1-1. So we had to go back to I don't know what it was called at the time, but the Reebok, Bolton's ground, and then we ended up losing 3-2 at their place. But so that was another good game to have. But yeah, I've had a few like in the FA Cup and stuff. You do get some good ones, and then there was I think one year, who did we get beat by? I can't remember now. I think it might have been the Bolton year, and then they drew in the next round. They got drawn. I think it was Man City away. So it was one of them. It was like a bit of a kick in the teeth because we were a couple of minutes from going through, and then they ended up beating us or whatever in the replay, and then they draw Man City away. So it was a bit of a difficult one to take. But other than that, I've had a lot of playoff games and stuff, and I've been a bit unlucky really. It's always been either penalties or very fine margins. So it's been tough, but.
Well, Will, as a Sheffield United fan, we're used to that because I don't know if you know, but Sheffield United have got the worst record in playoffs.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Been there.
In fact, we've got to the final a few times, and if I remember right, we're yet to score in the final.
Well, that's some record.
Yes. But
I think you're right.
yeah, Ian, you've got a question. 2 seconds. Let me unmute him. Yep, Ian. Oh, hang on.
I was unmuted. Right.
Yeah.
Who's the most difficult player you've played against? The one that's actually given you most grief, and you've thought, well, I don't want to play him again.
Trying to think. Well, when I was at Swindon, so I didn't actually play against him as such. Obviously, I did in training, but Charlie Austin, he was at obviously Southampton, West Brom now or something. I'm not quite sure where he's at now, but he was just one of them players. Like he turned up to training like the first day he came on trial from Paul Town, like a local team, and he had ripped boots and he just looked scruffy, and we just thought, well, who's this guy really? To be honest with you, like a few of the lads were sort of like, oh, like I won't see him tomorrow, sort of thing. But they signed him, and he did unbelievably well for Swindon, and obviously gone on to have a very good career. But he was just one of them players you couldn't. He was strong, he was quick, he didn't look quick. You didn't think, oh, he's like Theo Walcott or someone like that. You think, well, they're going to be quick. You don't expect him to be quick because he was powerful, very good in the air, like probably one of the best headers of the ball that I've probably ever seen. And his finishing was good as well. So he was very good at all round. He wasn't just like outstanding at one. He was just very good at everything. And but he was probably one of the players that I'd say that I wouldn't have wanted to come up against because he was a pest as well. Didn't stop running, and he was a bit old school. Like I was watching a thing the other day about Alan Shearer. I was watching him, like he had a bit of a nasty bit to him as well. And he had that as well. Do you know what I mean? Not in a horrible way, but he was aggressive. And he would if you give it back to him, he'd give it back to you, sort of thing. And he was very physical in that aspect as well. So I think as a player, he's one of the ones that I wouldn't have wanted to come up against him. I can see what he did, what he caused a lot of players a lot of trouble. So, and that's why he's obviously gone on to do very well.
Yeah. Who's the player that you would most like to emulate?
Well, I never really thought about it when I was a kid. I never really, obviously growing up, obviously you wanted to be like Paul Gascoigne, for instance. Like that was the person that I always sort of stood up, like my dad loved him. And then, so I sort of naturally just followed him as well. And he was just the person that you just wanted to watch to play. And then Zidane, I watched them as well because when I was younger, I was a central midfielder. I always played central midfield, and it wasn't until I left school that I became a centre half, and then obviously I kept switching throughout the first sort of few years of my professional career. I went centre half, centre midfield. So when I was younger, I looked up to centre midfielders like Zidane and Gascoigne, like I mentioned. But then as I've got a bit older, I've started looking back at things, and I like if I could look at things now, I'd look at like Rio Ferdinand, for instance. He's one that sort of stands out for me. And then even like, I know it's quite controversial for people, but Ramos, the way he is, he's obviously, you can't deny that he's won everything as a footballer. So he's obviously doing something right, but he's got this side to him that I don't like. Obviously the red cards and all this sort of stuff, like the bit of unfair play. That's not really me, but the way he is as a footballer, like he's unbelievable. And the way he like plays the game, I like to watch him in that aspect. And like a few of the old school defenders, but like the foreign ones, I quite like watching those because they play with like with a bit of flair. Where like the British ones, they're a bit old, like proper old school, where it's head and kick it, if that makes sense. But I do like watching the older, like Cannavaro, is it Cannavaro for who's at Barcelona and stuff. So I do like watching those, to be fair, like now, but rewind and stuff. But yeah, so there wasn't too many people. I wasn't one of them people that I always watched other people, if that makes sense. I just sort of focused on what I was doing. But I should have perhaps, maybe looking back now, I should have maybe studied a bit more on other, like the top players, because it's massive to learn off them.
Yeah, you don't fancy becoming an overlapping centre half then?
I have done that a few times. To be fair, when I signed for Chesterfield, the manager at the time, Martin Allen, he said, he sat down in his chair and he's like, so right, the reason I've signed you, he said, I've watched you at a game at Aldershot. He said, you got the ball on your 18-yard line and you just ran straight through the middle of the whole team and you had a shot. he said, from that day forward, I wanted to sign you. And I was like, all right, okay. So I do like to do that as well. I think it's because I was a central midfielder as a kid, and I always liked scoring goals. Like, it's one of the things I don't know why. I think everyone does at the end of the day, but I really liked getting the ball and driving through. A bit like, they say like Harry Maguire in the recent years. So in the present, he likes to drive out with the ball, doesn't he? John Stones, things like that. And to be fair, watching Sheffield United, cause they play the three at the back, don't they? And they're the two on the outside. Well, they're basically further forward than the midfielders. Yeah. So I do like that side of it, and because you like to get involved all over.
Yeah. So you mentioned a manager there, Mad Dog Allen. Is that nickname deserved?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I was saying to Chris actually the other day. I was talking to Chris, and he was one of them guys. Like, he is mad as a box of frogs or whatever, but he genuinely cared about his players. Like I was saying to Chris, like, he'd ring me up 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, sort of thing, and he'd be like, "Are you awake?" I was like, "Well, no, I'm not, but I am now." And he was like, "Well, how is it? How are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. How's your partner? How's your kids?" Do you know what I mean? He would generally take interest in how you were. And obviously he knew that I'd moved up away from my family, away from my childhood home and stuff. So he did do that sort of side of it. He wanted to make sure everyone was all right in his players, but he was just crackers. There's some stories like we were playing Halifax away, and we came in at half time 0-0. Fine, 0-0 away from home. I think they were pushing for promotion at the time, so they were a good team. And came in, he was all calm, absolutely fine. Said, "Right, lad, you're doing well. Keep it going." And then literally 5 minutes later, he walked into the showers, walked round the corner block, like shower block, and came back out. He started throwing the chair off the ceiling, going absolutely crazy, shouting at one of the lads, and basically saying, like, "What you like?" Blaming us for being. He was saying we were bad. I was like, "How can you just?" He just flipped a switch. I don't know what it was. Something in the showers, I think. And he started, just going bonkers at us. But he had that in him as well. Like, he would literally just like flip from one thing to another. And then there was one time we were in a hotel for pre-match in the morning. So we go about 11:30 for a Saturday, and you eat around between 11:30 and 11:45, say. And we'd have everyone eaten, and then we normally watch a video or something before or after your meal, and then before the game. But the video wasn't working, so he basically got us all to line up in the hotel, as a corner, basically. So we had the guy stood over in the corner with a bit of toast in his hand, and then the people that were attacking it in this sort of area, and he got the lad who was taking the corner. He was throwing the toast into the corner, into the box, and he was making us try and head this bit of toast. And we were just like, what's going on here? But that was just the way he was. He just, like, we pulled up we were driving along the road once, and there was a park. We were playing, I can't remember who it was, somewhere down in London. And there was a park on the side of the road, and we just stopped. This was on a Friday afternoon, like traveling down to the hotel. And we just stopped, and he was like, "Right, lads, everyone out." So we got out, put your boots on, put our boots on. And we just started having like a little game, like on this park. And there was like kids running around, people walking their dogs, and he was just like, right, come on, and then just got back on the coach and went. It was just like, he was just very strange like that. He had some very strange ways of working, but it worked for him at the time. But I think now in the modern day football, it's just I don't think it's quite the way it's going to work.
No. Okay. Tony, would you like? Tony, you've got a question? Hang on. We'll come back, Tony. We'll have to come back to you. I can't unmute.
Are you there now?
Yes, Tony. Yes, we're there now.
You're there now, right. Yeah, Will, sorry about that, Will. It's Tony. I used to play golf at the Chesterfield football, late 60s and early 70s. A friend of mine played on the wing, Tony Moore and that. And I used to play table tennis in the club room with them and all that. I wondered if you still went golfing at Tapton with the players or Beechiff like we used to?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, I don't think we have. I don't think any of the lads have. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, played golf because, well, I think there's only a handful of lads that actually play golf now. I'd say half of them have got kids and stuff, so it's quite hard to get out after training. And we've got a few lads that I'd say half of them, again, they live over an hour and a half away. So they just sort of finish training and they want to get off and go home sort of thing. But regarding, like you say, the table tennis and stuff, they actually took it down because they didn't want us playing it anymore. But we had a darts board in the home changing room. So we did play that for a long while. We were having tournaments and stuff, but I shouldn't probably say that because that's probably why we weren't doing so well. But focus on the darts more than the football. But no, I think you've got to have that in the dressing room. You've got to have that sort of off the field thing. And I think, like you're saying about the golf, I'm as a captain, I'm going to sort of try and get the lads to do more days out and get people more involved with each other because it builds good team bonding and stuff. So I think, like you said, the golf is a good way of doing it as well.
Okay. Dave, you've got a question.
I have, yeah. Hello, Will.
Yeah.
I'd just like to know what which team you support, and also are you living locally now?
Well, yeah. So I live in Retford, literally 3 doors, 4 doors, whatever it is from Chris. So
right.
yeah, in the same street. So I live there. Yeah. So I moved up. Well, it'll be 2 years in October now. So
nice area.
Yeah, lovely area. Well, like I said, I was from the Cotswolds, Cirencester way, and so I've never had to move with football before, and this is the first time I've sort of had to move, and it was, well, I don't know what it is.
You settled there now, then?
Yeah. It's been good. Settled really well, and obviously,
good neighbour with Chris then.
Yeah, well, he's the annoying one, to be honest. But
he's got to step that. Is he the one who got his wheelie bin out on time or puts the wrong one out?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And the other question, Will, was which team do you support?
Yeah, so I'm a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, purely because my dad was a Tottenham supporter, so I just obviously as a kid he'd buy me a Tottenham shirt, so I sort of grew up wearing Tottenham shirts, so it just sort of happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so who were your Tottenham heroes at the time when you were a real soccer mad lad?
Well, it was like Ginola, Teddy Sheringham, sort of that sort of era was good. So yeah, I like watching those, to be fair. But yeah, in the recent years, it might sound strange, but I like watching Tom Huddleston when he was at Spurs. Just like the way he played, his technical ability, both feet was just unreal. And I sort of the way he was quite a laid back person. He looked like quite laid back on the pitch, and he looked a bit similar to myself. So I think that's why I sort of took a bit of a notice to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he does. I'm just wondering if, like, you like Tom Huddleston, and what I've seen of him, when he played deep, he was a player who, like you say yourself, would like to search forward with the ball, and have a crack at goal. Yeah, and he was very good to watch.
Yeah, that's why I like to watch him. To be fair, because he sort of had things that I sort of could relate to. Like he was a good sort of long pass of the ball, which I like as well, and like long distance shots and things like that. So he did sort of remind me a little bit of myself. So that's why I think I sort of watched him a bit more.
Okay, no, thanks for that, Will. That's great. Lovely.
And incidentally, Will, my father-in-law once signed for Tottenham.
Really?
Just prior to the war. He went to war and got injured, and that was it. So he's a Tottenham fan, so
hopefully they can turn it around. They've had a few good years, but they haven't really quite got over the line with anything. So hopefully they can sort of push on. But
not this year.
No, not this. I don't think this year. No.
No, we're not.
To be honest, I said to Chris, I'd love to see Sheffield United get that 4th spot. I think it would be so much as a football fan. It would be unbelievable to see the achievement they would have done from, like, if you look back 12 months from where they are to where they are now. It's where they were, to where they are now. It's incredible, really. So, or even going back 2-3 years, it's a massive achievement.
Yeah, Paul the Biscuit has got a question. Maybe I should explain why we call him Paul the Biscuit.
You don't need to, we can probably guess.
Yeah.
He seems like a bright lad, I'm sure he'll work it out. Now, I was just wondering, Will, what are your hopes for Chesterfield in the coming year or so?
To be honest, that's what to be honest, ever since I came here, I've obviously came for a reason, to be honest, because I've been sold, I was sold a dream, really, like big club, big fan base for the National League. It's incredible. And I was obviously, the hope for me is to go back in the Football League, because obviously I want to play as high as I can for as long as I can. But so that's for me going to be the push. Obviously, we've had a few. The last 2 years have been difficult, but I think with the manager we got now and the squad that he wants to build and stuff, I think it sort of seems like it's changing, because I think under Martin Allen, it sort of seemed like it was a short-term fix, but didn't quite work out, and then he lost interest and got paid up a lot of money, and then John Sheridan came in. And it sort of felt like the club needed him rather than him needing the club, if that makes sense. Yeah. So where now John Pemberton, like, he needs this for the club. He needs the club. The club don't need him. They can go out and get another manager. But he needs it, and he needs to prove himself as a manager, and he needs to show everybody out there that he can do it, and somebody turn this thing around. And it seems to me like everything I've had conversations with him, phone conversations, I've sat down meetings with him, and everything he says obviously is positive. So I kind of feel like it is changing in that aspect. Like I said, Martin Allen got to a stage where he would rather be sacked. That's what it felt like as a player. And then even John Sheridan, like, he said, like, I don't want to be here. I remember him turning around and saying, like, I don't want to be here, like, but I'm not walking anywhere, because until they pay me my money. So, do you know what I mean? And that, as a player and a manager, it's not healthy, is it? So, but now we've got a manager that sort of obviously I know anything can happen, but it sort of seems like I said, like he needs this, and he needs to prove himself, because it's a hard world, it's a hard industry to prove yourself in, especially as a manager.
Yeah.
So
You've got one thing in common with him, in that his first ever game in the league for Sheffield United, he finished up in goal.
how did he?
Yep, it was
Oh,
against
wow.
Liverpool on the
Oh.
first game of the season.
Crikey, I'll have to remind him of that.
Yes.
0-0 draw, wasn't it, Keith?
I think we lost.
Did he let one in?
Surely not.
Yeah.
Against a good side.
I can't remember exactly, but I think we lost. But lol.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
got another question for Will. Going back to your pre-Swindon days, Will, in your youth, you played for Fairford Town and Cricklade.
Mm.
Did you win anything with them? And did anybody of your teammates follow you into the professional game?
So when I was at Fairford, so I started there when I was 5 or 6, about 5, because I got scouted when I was 6. So yeah, we had like a little team then, and I think because when I first signed for Swindon, like I said, I could train with them, but I couldn't play games with them because I was underage or whatever. So I could carry on playing for Fairford, because once I turned about 10 or around 9 or 10, I wasn't allowed to play for my local team. I just had to play for Swindon. So I played. Yeah, so I played for Fairford, and we had a very, very good team. And I think we went 2 years unbeaten in like the local league, and then we went on to like the Wiltshire thing, the Wiltshire County leagues as well, and we won that. And yeah, I had a very good team, to be honest with you, but no one's actually made it professionally, which was quite a shock actually, because we had a lot of good players. But we had one lad who he signed for Swindon, but when he got to the end of school, he basically got let go. But other than that, no, there was nobody. Which I think it does show that it's quite a hard thing to get to actually do, to carry out. Like even in my youth team, like you leave school, you do a 2-year scholarship where you've got to go to college twice, 1.5 days a week to get an education. You've got to do your coaching badges in that. It's all through the PFA. So you've got to do that. And then even from that squad, I think there was 10 of us, only 2 of us got offered professional contracts. So it's quite a hard thing.
Yeah. Okay, we're less than 1 minute. So can I say thank you on behalf of everybody? You're mostly all muted, so quick round of applause from everyone.
Well done, Will.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we go, John, have you got any news? Quickly, John.
Have I got any news? Mafeking's been relieved. I'll be able to visit Ed in his care home a week next Saturday at 2:00. So I'll report back on how he's doing. But that's a good move. So it's pleasing to be able to see him. I'll let you know what he's like.
About to end, so I'll finish it again. Thank you, Will. And if